She inherited a haunted manor. Inside lived a vampire waiting 300 years for her blood. Clara Wren had never expected her life to change so suddenly. One ordinary morning, as she sipped tea in her small apartment, a letter arrived that would pull her into a world she never knew existed. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and sealed with a strange wax emblem, a rose entwined with a serpent. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. The letter told her that she had inherited a manor from a distant relative she had never met. No conditions, no strings, just an estate nestled in the mountains, far from the bustling city she had always called home. It seemed almost impossible. Clara was just 26, working as a librarian, living quietly among books and small routines. She had never imagined being the owner of a sprawling estate filled with secrets, shadows, and history. By the next week, she found herself driving along a winding mountain road, the trees growing taller and closer with every mile. The air had a strange heaviness, scented with moss, damp earth, and something unplaceable that made the hairs on her arms rise. Mist curled around the ancient forest like white serpents, hiding the road ahead. Even the birds seemed silent. Finally, the manor appeared through the fog. Its stone walls were tall and gray, worn by centuries, covered in climbing ivy. The windows glimmered faintly in the dim light, reflecting the clouds that scuttled across the sky. The wooden gates creaked as she pushed them open, the sound echoing across the empty courtyard. Clara's heart pounded. The place was beautiful, frightening, and strangely familiar. The front door groaned as she entered. Dust floated in the sunlight that filtered through stained glass, casting muted colors across the floor. She could hear the whisper of the wind through broken shutters. The manor smelled of old wood, cold stone, and something ancient. A sense of being watched prickled at the back of her neck. Clara wandered through the vast halls, each room more imposing than the last. Tapestries lined the walls, depicting battles, feasts, and scenes of people whose faces seemed almost alive. Candles, long extinguished, left blackened holders, as though the manor had been frozen in time. Her footsteps echoed endlessly, making the house feel larger than it had to be. It was in the library that she felt it most. Bookshelves rose from floor to ceiling, filled with leather-bound tomes and dusty scrolls. In the center of the room, a large desk sat, as if waiting for her. Something about this room felt alive, and not in a comforting way. It was the kind of presence that watched quietly, patient, knowing. She had barely run her fingers over a spine when she heard a faint click. Turning, she noticed a hidden door at the far end of the library, almost invisible beneath the carved wood of the shelves. Curiosity, stronger than fear, urged her forward. She pressed a hand against the panel, and it swung open with a soft groan. Beyond it lay a narrow staircase, descending into darkness. Clara hesitated, then, with the small lantern she had brought, she stepped down into the shadowed passage. The staircase ended in a chamber, cold and still. A sense of time passing strangely washed over her. In the center of the room lay a large coffin, black and polished. It was as if it had been waiting, untouched for centuries. Clara's breath caught in her throat. She felt the pull of something beyond reason, a strange energy that seemed to hum through the air. Before she could step closer, a voice echoed smooth and deep from within the shadows. "You have come." Clara froze. The voice was not angry, not threatening, it was commanding, patient, and full of expectation. She took a cautious step forward. Who's there?" From the darkness, a figure emerged. Tall, pale, and perfectly still. His hair was black as night, his eyes a piercing shade of crimson that seemed to see directly into her soul. He moved with grace, like a shadow gliding across the floor. "I have waited for 300 years," he said, his voice a whisper that felt like both warmth and warning. "You are the one the prophecy spoke of, the one who carries the key to my freedom and my curse." Clara's heart raced. She had read about vampires in stories, but standing before her was someone who could not be simply explained away. Something in him was both terrifying and irresistibly magnetic. The air around him shimmered with the weight of centuries. I, I don't understand, Clara whispered. She took a step back, but the floor beneath her felt different, charged, as if the manor itself wanted her to stay. You will, he said softly. Soon. For a long moment they simply stared at one another. The silence was thick, almost suffocating. Clara felt the pull of his presence deep in her chest, a strange mixture of fear, curiosity, and something she could not name. She wanted to step away, but her feet would not obey. I am Lucian, he said finally, bowing his head slightly. Bound to this place, waiting for you, waiting for what only you can give. I mean no harm, not yet. Not yet, Clara repeated, confusion and fear mingling in her voice. Lucian's lips curved faintly, almost like a smile. Time has been cruel to me. I have waited patiently, but the prophecy cannot wait forever. Soon, everything will change, and you, Clara, will be at the center of it. The words sent shivers down her spine. She wanted to run, yet the manor felt alive beneath her feet, whispering secrets she could almost understand. She felt drawn, inexplicably, to the coffin, to Lucian, to the darkness itself. As she backed away, she noticed symbols carved into the walls, ancient, faded markings that pulsed faintly in the dim light. They seemed to react to her presence, glowing softly. A sudden cold gust blew through the chamber, extinguishing her lantern. Darkness enveloped the room, yet she could still see Lucian, as if he radiated his own light. You should not be afraid, he said. Fear is natural, but it does not protect you from what is coming. Clara swallowed hard. Why me? Why now? Lucian stepped closer, and the temperature seemed to drop. He was close enough that she could see the faintest shimmer of his skin in the darkness. Because you are the last of your line. Your ancestors bound me here. Your blood carries the power to free me or to doom you. And the manor, it has chosen to guide you to this moment. The weight of his words pressed upon her. She thought of her ordinary life, her quiet days among books, and wondered how it had all led her here, to a haunted manor, standing before a vampire who had waited centuries for her. Suddenly a sound echoed from the staircase, a soft creak as though someone or something else had moved. Clara turned sharply, her heart hammering. The room seemed to grow colder, darker. Lucian's gaze followed hers, calm and alert. They are waking, he murmured, almost to himself. Shadows of the past, and those who would prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. Before Clara could ask what he meant, a cold wind swept through the chamber, rattling the coffin and extinguishing what little light remained. She felt the presence of something unseen, ancient, and hostile. Her instincts screamed to flee, yet she could not move, rooted to the spot by the weight of the manor and Lucian's commanding presence. Lucian extended a hand toward her. Come, he said softly, his voice both promise and warning. There is much you must learn if you wish to survive what is coming. Her hands trembled as she took his, feeling the chill of his skin, the strength beneath it, and something else, something almost like longing, buried beneath centuries of solitude. She wanted to pull away, yet the manor itself seemed to guide her forward, and she realized that perhaps running was not an option. They walked together back up the hidden staircase, and Clara felt the manor's eyes upon her, watching, waiting. The air was thick with whispers, faint voices calling her name, warning her, tempting her. She did not understand the language, but the meaning was clear. She was not alone. When they emerged into the library, the world seemed slightly different. Shadows clung to the corners, the portraits on the walls seemed to tilt their heads toward her, and the air vibrated with ancient energy. Lucian let go of her hand, but the pull remained. You will not sleep well tonight, he said. The manor will test you. Dreams are no longer just dreams here. Listen carefully, for they may speak truths you cannot yet understand. Clara shivered, suddenly feeling very small in the vast, haunted house. Yet even in fear, she felt a strange exhilaration. The manor, the vampire, the prophecy, they were all part of something larger than herself, something that had waited centuries and now had begun with her. She retreated to one of the guest rooms, the walls lined with old tapestries and the scent of aged wood and dust. She sank onto the bed, but sleep would not come easily. The shadows seemed to move on their own, forming shapes and figures that vanished when she blinked. She could hear whispers, faint and incomprehensible, calling her name, urging her to remember, to awaken, to embrace what she could not yet understand. Finally, as the first rays of moonlight fell through the tall windows, Clara felt her eyelids grow heavy. And just as sleep began to take her, she felt a presence at the foot of the bed. Two red eyes glimmered in the darkness. Lucian's voice, soft and commanding, whispered, "You cannot hide from destiny, Clara, and I cannot hide from you." The shadows seemed to pulse with his words, and the manor sighed around her, as if agreeing. Clara's heart raced with fear and wonder. She did not know what the coming days would bring, only that nothing would ever be the same. And somewhere deep in the manor, the coffin stirred. Cliffhanger, Clara realizes that she is at the center of an ancient prophecy, and Lucian, the vampire who has waited 300 years, has finally awakened. The manor itself seems alive, watching and waiting, promising both danger and something irresistible beyond her understanding. Clara woke with a start, the memory of Lucian's glowing red eyes still fresh in her mind. The room was dim, bathed in the soft gray light of dawn filtering through tall, narrow windows. The manor was quiet, almost unnaturally so, and yet she felt the weight of its gaze upon her, pressing in like a living thing. She rose from the bed cautiously, her feet touching the cold wooden floor. Her heart still raced from the events of the previous night, the hidden chamber, the coffin, and Lucian's words about destiny, prophecy, and her blood. The thought made her skin prickle, part of her frightened, part of her intrigued. There was a strange pull she could not explain, a magnetism that drew her toward the unknown. Clara dressed quickly, trying to shake off the lingering fear. She had to understand more about this manor, about the vampire who had claimed to wait centuries for her, and about the prophecy she had not yet fully understood. She stepped out into the hallway. The manor seemed alive around her. The walls whispered, the portraits watched, and somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of a door creaking echoed. As she wandered deeper into the estate, she discovered a spiral staircase leading down to a cellar. A chill ran through her veins as she descended, her lantern casting shadows that danced across the stone walls. At the bottom, she found another library, smaller than the first but filled with more peculiar items, scrolls written in unknown languages, vials of strange powders, and symbols carved into the stone floor. Lucian appeared suddenly, stepping from the shadows as though he had been waiting for her. "You are awake early," he said, his voice low, smooth, carrying that same strange mixture of warmth and danger. "I couldn't sleep," Clara admitted, holding the lantern tighter. "I keep hearing things. The manor, it feels alive." Lucian nodded slowly. "It is alive. This place is bound to my curse and your bloodline. Your ancestors left marks, wards, and protections. The manor recognizes you and it will test you, but it will also guide you if you learn to listen." Clara's curiosity overrode her fear. "Test me, guide me. What do you mean?" Lucian's gaze softened slightly, though his eyes still burned like embers. "This manor holds spirits, shadows of the past. Some are benign, others less so. They are drawn to the power that stirs within you. You must learn control or they will control you." Clara shivered. "Control what?" "The power in your blood," Lucian replied, stepping closer. "It is the key to my freedom, but also a test for you. It can bring life or it can bring ruin. That is why I have waited." A sudden crash echoed from above. Clara's heart leapt. Lucian's ears twitched slightly, alert. "Someone or something is here," he murmured. They ascended the stairs quickly, and Clara's eyes widened as they entered the main hall. Shadows flitted across the walls, and a cold wind swept through the room, though all windows were closed. The portraits seemed to move, their eyes following her. From the shadows emerged figures cloaked in black, their faces hidden. Clara instinctively stepped behind Lucian, her fear sharp and immediate. "You should not have come here," one of the figures said in a voice that echoed like distant thunder. Lucian's expression hardened. "They will not harm you if I am present," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But they wish to test the prophecy, to claim what they believe should not be yours." Clara felt a shiver of fear and fascination. She wanted to run, but her legs would not obey. Lucian moved like a shadow, standing between her and the intruders. In a blur, he summoned a wall of energy, shimmering and dark, that pushed the cloaked figures back. "You cannot win," one of them hissed, retreating slightly. "The prophecy belongs to power, not love." Lucian's eyes narrowed and he stepped forward. "It belongs to her," he said simply, "to her courage and to her choice." Clara's mind whirled. Courage, choice. She had never been someone who faced danger like this, yet something deep within her stirred. Her blood hummed in her veins, a strange warmth that made her pulse quicken. It was as if the manor itself had awakened something dormant, something powerful. The cloaked figures vanished with a whisper of wind, leaving the hall silent once more. Lucian turned to Clara, his crimson eyes softening. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked. "Yes," Clara admitted, breathless. "Something inside me, I don't understand it." "That is your inheritance," Lucian said. "It has always been part of you. Your ancestors protected it until now. But the world beyond these walls will not wait. They will try to take it from you." Clara swallowed hard. What am I supposed to do?" "You will learn," Lucian said, his voice gentle. "You will learn to control it, to understand it, and to choose your own path. But you must not be afraid of it. Fear is a chain. Courage is freedom." The day passed in strange stillness. Clara explored the manor, discovering hidden rooms, corridors that seemed longer than they should be, and windows that looked out over forests shrouded in mist. Every corner held whispers, and every shadow seemed to watch. Lucian accompanied her silently, guiding her through the strange magic of the estate. As night fell, the manor seemed to transform. Candles flickered to life without hands, the shadows shifted, and a soft hum of energy filled the air. Clara felt both awe and fear. She could sense that the manor was alive, aware of her presence, waiting for her to accept what she was. Lucian led her to the hidden chamber once more. The coffin sat in the center, its black surface polished to a mirror-like shine. Clara's hands trembled as she approached it. Do I have to do something with it?" she asked. Lucian shook his head. "Not yet, but you must understand it. This coffin is not just my prison. It is a symbol of time, patience, and waiting. And soon it will be a choice you must face." Clara nodded, though the weight of his words pressed on her like the cold stone walls around them. She felt a strange connection to Lucian, a bond that was difficult to define. Fear and fascination warred within her, but a part of her was undeniably drawn to him, as if some unseen thread pulled them together. Hours passed, and Clara grew weary. She finally retreated to her guest room, the manor quiet around her. Sleep came slowly, and when it did, it brought visions. Shadows moved, whispers called her name, and she saw glimpses of Lucian, both as he was now and as he had been centuries ago. She saw a man trapped in darkness, waiting for release, and she felt a deep sadness for him, mingled with an unexplainable longing. Morning came with a soft light, and Clara rose, determined to learn more. Lucian awaited her in the library, as always calm and composed, yet his eyes held a depth of centuries that made her chest ache. "You are growing stronger," he said softly. "The manor tests you, but you respond with courage. That is the first step." "I don't feel strong," Clara said honestly. "I feel scared and confused," and she paused, searching for the word. "Drawn to you, I don't understand it." Lucian's lips curved faintly. "It is natural. You feel the bond, the connection that the prophecy foretold. You are not meant to fear it, but to understand it. The day passed with lessons in subtle magic, in sensing the life and energy within the manor, and in recognizing the spirits that lingered. Some were kind, whispering forgotten secrets. Others were hostile, testing her will. Lucian guided her carefully, never touching her unless she allowed it, but always present, a constant anchor in the swirling world of shadows and whispers. As evening fell, the manor grew colder, the shadows longer. Clara felt a presence outside the windows, a figure moving silently among the trees. She turned to Lucian, alarmed. "They are back," he said quietly. "The ones who wish to claim the prophecy before it is ready. We must prepare." Clara's heart raced, but she no longer felt helpless. She had seen the power within herself, even if only in flashes, and she realized that fear would not save her. Courage, understanding, and trust, especially trust, would be her weapons. Lucian's hand brushed hers lightly, a gesture both reassuring and possessive. "You will not be alone," he said. "I will protect you, but the choice is always yours." As they stood together, the manor seemed to pulse with life, shadows moving like living things around them. The night stretched before them, full of unknown dangers and unseen eyes. Clara knew that the world she had entered was far more dangerous than she had imagined, yet also far more wondrous. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the walls of the manor, the wind carried whispers of dark forces gathering, waiting for the moment when the prophecy would be challenged. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the power inside her stir once more. Whatever awaited, she would face it, not as a frightened librarian, but as the heir of a haunted legacy, bound to a vampire who had waited 3 centuries for her. The night deepened, and with it came the knowledge that this was only the beginning. Shadows would rise, challenges would come, and the true test of her courage and of her bond with Lucian was yet to unfold. And in the hidden chamber the coffin stirred slightly, as though sensing the awakening of something long dormant. Cliffhanger. Clara has begun to understand her latent powers and the manor's secrets, but hostile forces are gathering outside, preparing to challenge the prophecy. Lucian promises protection, but the coming tests will demand courage, trust, and choice. The real danger is only beginning. The manor was quieter than usual that morning, but Clara knew better than to trust the silence. Shadows lingered in corners, stretching longer than they should. The air felt heavy with expectation, as though the house itself were holding its breath. She moved carefully down the grand staircase, her eyes scanning the ornate walls lined with portraits of ancestors long gone. Lucian was waiting in the library, his posture calm, yet there was a tension in his shoulders that made her heart tighten. He rose as she entered, his crimson eyes locking on hers. "You have grown stronger," he said, his voice soft but filled with authority. "The manor has accepted your presence, but others are aware now. They are watching." Clara's chest tightened. "Watching who?" Lucian's gaze darkened. "The order that hunts me. They believe your blood can give me ultimate power, not freedom. And they will stop at nothing to claim it." A chill ran down her spine. She had known the prophecy would bring danger, but the idea that there were enemies outside the manor, waiting for the right moment to strike, filled her with unease. "We must be careful," Lucian continued. "You are still learning. Your abilities, your bond with the manor, they are young, but they will grow, and soon you must make choices that will shape both our fates." Clara felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She had always lived a quiet life, surrounded by books and routine. Now she was thrust into a world of ancient magic, shadows, and a vampire whose destiny had been bound to hers for centuries. It was terrifying and exhilarating. They spent the morning exploring deeper parts of the manor, hidden corridors, forgotten chambers, and rooms that seemed to shift in shape as they moved through them. Clara felt the pulse of the house beneath her feet, a living rhythm that seemed to respond to her emotions. Lucian guided her, showing her how to sense the energy in the walls, the whispers of spirits, and the faint glow of the ancient wards left by her ancestors. "You must learn to listen," Lucian said as they entered a circular room at the heart of the manor. The floor was etched with strange symbols that pulsed faintly in the dim light. "The manor speaks. It protects, warns, and tests. If you ignore it, it may grow restless, and so will those who follow the prophecy." Clara knelt, placing her hands on the cold stone. She closed her eyes and let the energy flow into her, a gentle hum vibrating through her veins. She felt the presence of the manor, alive and aware, guiding her, pushing her to awaken what lay dormant. Hours passed in silence, broken only by Lucian's soft instructions. He did not touch her unless necessary, respecting her space, yet his presence was a constant anchor. Clara felt a strange warmth in his nearness, a magnetic pull she could not resist. Every time their hands brushed, she felt a surge of energy, not fear, not pain, but something profound, ancient, and stirring. As twilight fell, the manor's atmosphere shifted. Shadows deepened, stretching across walls and floors like living things. Clara sensed it before she saw it. The cloaked figures had returned, their presence heavier, more determined. Her pulse quickened, but she no longer felt entirely powerless. "They are coming," Lucian whispered, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "Tonight you will see the danger and your choice will matter." The first figure appeared in the hall, a silhouette moving silently among the shifting shadows. Clara could feel their intent, sharp and cold. Her blood hummed, a warning, a signal that the manor shared with her. Lucian stepped forward, his presence commanding, and the air around him shimmered with dark energy. "Leave now, or face what cannot be undone," he said, his voice a mixture of warning and promise. The cloaked figure tilted its head, a hiss escaping from beneath the hood. "The prophecy belongs to power, not love. We will claim what is ours." Clara's hands trembled, but she stepped forward, surprising even herself. She focused on the energy she had felt in the manor, channeling it into a protective barrier around herself and Lucian. Light pulsed from her hands, gentle but firm, and the intruders recoiled, their forms wavering under the unexpected force. Lucian's eyes softened with pride. "You are stronger than you know," he said, "but you must remain focused. They will return stronger with more cunning." The cloaked figures vanished into the shadows, leaving only the faint echo of whispers behind. Clara's heart was still racing, but she felt a strange exhilaration. She had faced danger and survived, and she had contributed to that survival. Later, in the quiet of the library, Clara and Lucian sat together, their proximity comfortable yet charged with unspoken emotion. "You are learning," he said softly, "not just about the manor, but about yourself, about the power you carry and the choices you must make." Clara looked at him, her thoughts tangled. "It's not just the danger," she admitted. "It's you. I don't understand it, but I feel drawn to you. I'm frightened, yet I can't pull away." Lucian's gaze softened and he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You are not alone in this, Clara. You never were. The bond between us, it is ancient, predestined, and powerful. But it is also your choice. You must decide what it means and how far you are willing to go." The weight of his words pressed on her heart. She wanted to run, yet a part of her knew she never could. The bond was real, undeniable, and it came with responsibilities and dangers she could not ignore. As night deepened, the manor seemed to grow restless. Shadows flickered along walls and whispers called her name, urging her to awaken, to embrace her destiny. Clara felt the pulse of the manor intensify, and with it, her own power. She sensed the presence of the cloaked figures once more, circling outside, waiting for the moment to strike again. Lucian led her to the hidden chamber, the coffin at its center. "You must understand," he said. "This is not just my prison. It is a test. Soon you will face choices that will challenge your courage, your trust, and your heart. You must be ready." Clara approached the coffin, her hands trembling slightly. She could feel the energy within it, ancient and heavy. It was as if the coffin itself were alive, connected to Lucian, to the manor, and to her own awakening power. Suddenly, a cold wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing the lantern she carried. Darkness enveloped them, yet Clara could still sense Lucian's presence, solid and protective. A whisper brushed against her mind, soft but urgent. Choose or be lost. Clara felt a surge of determination. She was no longer the frightened librarian who had first arrived at the manor. She was the heir, the protector, and the bond between her and Lucian had awakened something ancient within her. "We will face them," she said, her voice steady despite the fear she still felt. "Together," Lucian nodded, his eyes shining with pride and something deeper, hope, perhaps, or relief that she had accepted her role. "Together," he repeated. The manor seemed to pulse in response, shadows moving with purpose. Clara felt the energy within her grow, a steady hum of power and possibility. She knew the coming days would bring more danger, more tests, and more choices that could shape not only her fate but the fate of the vampire who had waited centuries for her. And in the hidden chamber, the coffin stirred again, as though sensing the strengthening bond, the awakening power, and the inevitable confrontation that lay ahead. Cliffhanger. Clara and Lucian face a growing threat from the mysterious order that seeks to claim the prophecy. Clara begins to understand her powers and bond with Lucian, but a dangerous choice approaches that could test her courage, her trust, and the depth of their connection. The real challenge of the prophecy is only beginning. The manor seemed to hold its breath that night. Shadows stretched across walls and corridors like living fingers, moving with a purpose Clara could feel in her bones. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers of the cloaked order that had haunted her since her arrival. Tonight, she knew, everything would come to a head. Clara stood in the grand hall, the soft glow of lanterns casting long shadows across the stone floors. Lucian appeared from the doorway, his expression calm yet tense. His crimson eyes, centuries old, held a mixture of pride, concern, and something more, something that made Clara's heart pound. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and steady, but the weight of it pressed upon her like the manor itself. Clara took a deep breath. "I have to be. I won't run. Not now." She felt the energy within her pulse, a steady hum of power, courage, and awakening. She was no longer just a visitor in the manor. She was its heir, its protector, and the key to a prophecy that had waited centuries to be fulfilled. Lucian extended his hand. "Together," he said, and she took it, feeling the warmth and strength that had always accompanied him, even in darkness. The first figure appeared in the hall, a silhouette cloaked in black, moving silently. Then another, and another. The cloaked order had come, their intent clear. They sought to claim Clara's power to control the prophecy and to seize Lucian's fate for their own. "You cannot win," one of them said, their voice echoing unnaturally, as if carried by the shadows themselves. "The prophecy belongs to power, not to love. Step aside and you will survive." Lucian's gaze hardened. "The prophecy belongs to her, and she will decide its meaning." Clara felt a surge of energy as the words passed between them. The manor hummed beneath her, as if approving, as if lending its strength. She focused, letting the energy flow through her hands, forming a protective barrier around herself and Lucian. The cloaked figures recoiled, their forms wavering in the sudden brilliance of her power. "You are stronger than I expected," one hissed, stepping forward with a menacing glide. "But strength alone will not save you." Clara's chest tightened, yet she did not back down. She met the figure's gaze, letting the energy within her flow outward, not as an attack but as a shield. The manor responded to her will, the walls pulsing, the floors trembling. Shadows twisted and recoiled, bending to the rhythm of her power. Lucian moved beside her, calm and commanding. "Do not fear it," he said. "The power is yours. You are not just a protector, you are the heir of all that came before. Remember your ancestors. Remember the bond between us." Together they faced the order. Shadows collided, energy crackling in the air, the manor alive with the echoes of ancient magic. Clara felt the pulse of her own power, steady and strong, as though the bloodline that had waited for centuries now flowed fully within her. "You cannot claim me," she shouted, the sound amplified by the manor itself. Light burst from her hands, pushing the intruders back. They hissed and shrieked, retreating to the edges of the hall. Lucian's eyes shone with pride and relief. "Yes, control it, Clara, control it." The order regrouped, more determined than ever. But Clara had learned courage, trust, and the strength of choice. She did not hesitate. She raised her hands, summoning the energy of the manor and the legacy within her. A surge of brilliant light erupted, forming a barrier that held the intruders at bay. "You are not here to take us," she said firmly, her voice steady. "You will not claim what belongs to destiny." The leader of the order stepped forward, his hooded face revealing eyes cold and calculating. "And if destiny refuses to bend to your will—" Lucian's hand brushed against hers, grounding her, steadying her. "Then we create our own destiny," he said, his voice low and resolute. With a final, focused effort, Clara directed the power flowing within her, and the shadows of the cloaked figures wavered, breaking like mist before sunlight. The energy of the manor and her bloodline intertwined, forming a force so strong that the intruders were hurled backward, leaving the hall silent except for the echo of their retreat. Clara's knees weakened, and Lucian caught her, holding her close. His crimson eyes softened as he looked at her. "You did it," he whispered. "You faced them and controlled the power. You have fulfilled the first step of the prophecy, and more importantly, you have chosen." Clara's chest rose and fell rapidly, her heart pounding. She felt the exhaustion of exertion, but also a profound exhilaration. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of herself than ever before. Lucian guided her to the hidden chamber once more. The coffin, once cold and foreboding, now seemed calm, almost respectful, as if acknowledging the choice she had made. Clara approached it slowly, hands trembling, feeling the energy ripple beneath her fingertips. "This is more than a prison," Lucian said softly. "It is a symbol of patience, of centuries of waiting, and of the power that flows between us. Your choice, your courage, and your bond with me, these are what will finally awaken it." Clara placed her hands on the coffin, closing her eyes. She let the energy flow through her, merging her power with Lucian's and the manor's. A warm, radiant light filled the chamber, shadows retreating, the air vibrating with magic and life. She felt a connection not just to Lucian, but to her ancestors, the manor, and the centuries of waiting that had led to this moment. Lucian's hand found hers, and together they focused. A sense of release passed through the room, as if centuries of tension, longing, and curses were dissolving. Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of relief, triumph, and awe. The prophecy was not simply about blood or power. It was about courage, choice, and the bond forged between them. As the light dimmed, Clara opened her eyes. Lucian stood beside her, his usual regal composure softened by emotion. "You have done more than awaken the prophecy," he said. "You have freed me, not just from the curse but from centuries of waiting and loneliness." Clara's hand tightened around his. "And you freed me too," she said softly, "from fear, from doubt. From the small life I thought I had to live. I am no longer afraid." Lucian's lips curved in a faint, almost tender smile. "Then the manor, the prophecy, and our bond all have been fulfilled. But our story, it is only beginning." Outside, the manor seemed to sigh, shadows retreating, the wind calming. The oppressive heaviness of centuries lifted, leaving warmth and light in its place. Clara and Lucian stood together in the great hall, looking out over the forested mountains. The night was clear, stars glittering in a sky free of clouds. Clara felt a sense of peace she had never known, yet her heart still thrummed with the awareness of everything that had passed and everything that lay ahead. She was no longer simply an heir, She was a guardian, a partner, and a force in her own right. Lucian moved closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You have chosen courage," he said softly. "You have embraced the bond, the power, and your destiny. And because of that, we are free together." Clara looked up at him, crimson eyes meeting her own. "Together," she echoed. For the first time since she arrived at the manor, she felt truly at home, not just in the house but in the life that stretched before her. There would be challenges, there would be shadows, and there would always be tests of courage. But she was no longer afraid. She had power, wisdom, and the bond of a love that had been centuries in the making. In the hidden chamber, the coffin remained, still and peaceful. It no longer seemed threatening but reverent, a witness to the courage and choice that had awakened it. The manor itself seemed alive with gratitude, the air warm and vibrant, whispering faintly in a language she could almost understand. "Well done. The air has awakened." Lucian held her close as the first rays of dawn touched the manor, golden light streaming through the stained glass. Clara felt the weight of centuries lift, replaced with a promise of new beginnings. She had faced darkness, danger, and prophecy, and emerged stronger, wiser, and connected to a love that transcended time. And somewhere deep in the forest beyond the manor, shadows that had once lingered in wait now dispersed, powerless against the courage and bond that had awakened within the manor walls. The prophecy had been fulfilled, not by fear or obedience, but by choice, trust, and love. Clara and Lucian stood together, the manor alive around them, the future open and unafraid. And in that moment they both knew, whatever came next, they would face it as one. The wind carried their whispers across the mountains, a promise to the world that the haunted manor had finally found its true heirs, and that their story, centuries in the making, would continue, bright and unbroken, beyond the shadows of the past.